Welcome to the Berean Fire Bible 101 Boot Camp. I'm your host, Joe Thomas. Welcome to Episode 0. Bible 101 Boot Camp is designed to give a basic introduction and overview of the Bible for people who are fairly new to reading it, or a refresher for people who already have familiarity with the Bible. Many people find the Bible confusing or overwhelming and have a hard time diving in. Others have heard things about the Bible that, aren't really true, but it causes them to lose interest before they even start. In reality, the Bible's the best-selling book of all time for good reason. It actually is understandable, and it's incredibly exciting if you know how to read it properly. I was a very non-religious atheist when I went to college 45 years ago. Hard to believe it's been that long. And I had never read the Bible except for a couple passages I had to read for an English class in high school. I wish I had something like this to explain how it all fits together back then. It would have saved me a lot of confusion. For many people, the Bible can be very intimidating at first. When I first became a Christian at age 19, I gave a New Testament to my 9-year-old brother, Jay. A few days later, I asked him what he thought. He said, "I didn't understand it, so I stopped after a few verses." I realized that he had started in Matthew 1, and he was reading a genealogy. Well, to a first-century Jewish reader, that would have been very interesting. But to my 9-year-old brother, it was totally confusing. I realized I should have told him to skip that, and once I did, over the next week, he had read all 28 chapters of Matthew. I learned a new acronym about 2 years ago, Eli 5. Young people know what it means, but older folks might not. Eli 5 is an acronym for explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. In other words, make it simple. Before I retired from my day job, I often asked the techie folks to Eli 5 it for me. When I was young, I was a techie, but some of the new stuff, honestly, I'd never studied and I couldn't keep up with. Bible 101 Boot Camp is Eli 5 for the Bible. Here's what we're going to cover in the 4 episodes of Boot Camp. What is this book? What's the Bible? And we're going to look at 8 reasons why it seems confusing to so many people and why it's actually easier to understand than we think. Secondly, what are these books? I'm going to explain the books of the Bible. We're going to take a tour of the table of contents. Number 3, can someone put this book in order? We're going to take a look at a chronological view of the Bible, putting everything in order from beginning to end. See, the Bible is not arranged in chronological order. And I think this will even be helpful for really experienced readers. It took me a lot of years to understand how it all fit together chronologically. And lastly, I heard about that book. We're going to look at some of the questions and objections that people have had about the Bible and answer a few of those. Now, in our main podcast, the Berean Fire podcast, we're going to have quite a few episodes that teach us in really practical ways how to read and understand the Bible, and most importantly, how we can apply it to our lives. We're not going to get those details in boot camp. This is just going to be an overview. Now, a little bit about me. I grew up in a non-religious home, and there was never a Bible in our house. No prayers were ever recited, and the only time God was discussed was if I used the Lord's name in vain. If I said, "Oh God," my dad would say, "You don't sound like you're praying." He was not a religious man, and he had stopped going to the Lutheran church when he was 18 years old. But for some reason, he had a conviction about that one thing, not taking the Lord's name in vain. His other conviction was that every kid needs some religion. So I was forced to attend the Catholic church next door until I was about 14 years old. And then Dad told me I could decide for myself. Since I hated going, and I didn't really pay attention while I was there, and honestly, I hated the hypocrisy that I saw, I never went again. By the time I graduated high school, I was a very good pagan and an atheist as well. Well, when I got to Ohio State, 3 doors down in the dormitory was a guy who actually believed this stuff and he put it into practice. And when he talked about Jesus, I'd discuss it with him because I was curious about Jesus. I hated religion, I didn't believe in God, but I kind of liked Jesus. I thought he was some sort of a wise hippie sage who would have smoked weed with me and talked to philosophy if he were hanging around campus. When I went to a Bible discussion on campus, I was the guy who was the heckler and would argue with the leader. But Robert was patient with me, and he hung on to me for a year and a half until I was ready to become a Christian. And at that point, I loved reading the Bible, but I was starting from square zero, and sometimes I misunderstood it. That's why I'm so passionate about teaching people how they can understand the Bible and learn how to transform their lives through their reading of the Bible. So, we hope you'll get a lot from Bible 101 Boot Camp. And then after the boot camp's done, we hope you'll continue to watch or listen to the Berean Fire video podcasts. And as every person says on a YouTube channel, please hit like and subscribe, which will help other people find this. We'll see you next time for episode 1, What is This Book?